If you don't choose yourself, the world will choose for you, and most of the time, it chooses wrong. I know you. You've been trying to be good, trying to be liked, trying not to disappoint anyone. You say yes when your soul screams no. You carry other people's expectations on your back, and you wonder why you feel tired, empty, confused. Listen carefully. This is not kindness. This is disappearance. And today I want to tell you something radical, something uncomfortable, something freeing. If you don't learn to be selfish in the right way, you will be lost your whole life. Most people never meet themselves. They live their entire lives as strangers in their own bodies. From the moment you are born, hands reach for you, they dress you, they name you, they tell you who you should become, and at first it feels like love, because as a child you don't know the difference between guidance and conditioning. You are rewarded when you behave, smiled at when you obey, corrected when you resist slowly. Without anyone intending harm, something dangerous happens. You begin to look outside for permission to exist. You learn that approval feels like safety, that acceptance feels like love, that rejection feels like death. So you adjust, you soften your edges, you quiet your instincts, you shrink your questions. You don't ask, what do I feel? You ask, what is allowed? And this is where the loss begins. By the time you grow up, you're very good at being useful, very good at being polite, very good at fitting in. But when the noise stops, when the room is quiet, when there is no one left to impress, you feel an ache you cannot name. That ache is you. You see, when you don't choose yourself, life does not leave a vacuum. Something else rushes in, expectations, traditions, fear, the opinions of people barely know you, and without realizing it, you begin living a borrowed life. You become who your parents hoped for, who your friends expect, who society rewards. But borrowed lives never fit the soul. They always feel tight somewhere, heavy somewhere, false somewhere. That's why so many people feel tired without doing much. Why they feel lost even when they are successful. Why they feel anxious even when everything looks fine. Because deep down the soul knows when it is being ignored. True selfishness begins with something very simple but very frightening. It begins with honesty, not honesty toward the world, honesty toward yourself. It means sitting still long enough to notice what you actually feel, not what you should feel, not what sounds right, but what is real. And that is not easy, because the moment you ask yourself, who am I? You also risk discovering who you are not. You may realize you are on the wrong path, in the wrong relationship, chasing the wrong dream. And the ego resists this fiercely because it has invested years in this identity. So most people avoid the question altogether. They stay busy, they stay distracted, they stay noisy, anything to avoid that quiet voice that says, this is not you. But listen carefully. Ignoring that voice does not silence it. It only makes it sadder. Selfishness, in its purest form, is the courage to listen anyway. It is the willingness to disappoint others rather than betray yourself. To be misunderstood rather than false. To be alone for a while rather than lost forever. When you begin choosing yourself, the world may resist. People may call you selfish, cold, changed. Let them, because what they are really reacting to is this. You are no longer available for manipulation. You are no longer living on autopilot. You are no longer abandoning yourself to make others comfortable. And here is the truth. Few dare to say out loud, a person who knows. Who they are cannot be controlled. They may still serve, they may still love, they may still give, but now it comes from fullness, not fear. So if you feel confused, if you feel disconnected, if you feel like you are living someone else's life, don't panic, don't judge yourself. This confusion is not failure. It is the beginning of awakening. You are standing at the edge of your real life. Choose yourself here, not loudly, not arrogantly, but quietly, firmly. Because if you don't decide who you are, the world will do it for you. And that is the fastest way to be lost. Because once you begin to sense who you are, the next challenge arrives immediately. And this one is painful in a different way. You start noticing how often you say yes, when everything inside you is whispering no. At first it seems harmless, just a favor, just helping out, just keeping the peace. But over time, these small yeses begin to pile up. They take your evenings, your weekends, your energy, and slowly, quietly they take you. Most people don't realize this, but every yes costs something. Time, attention, life force. And when you give it away unconsciously, you don't feel generous. You feel drained. You wonder why you're always tired, why irritation shows up out of nowhere, why resentment creeps into relationships you once cared about. It's because your soul is keeping score. Even when your mind pretends everything is fine, you are taught that saying no is rude, selfish, unkind. So you learn to override your inner signals. You learn to smile while shrinking, to agree while disappearing. But here is the truth. No one told you growing up, a yes that costs you your peace is not kindness. It is self-erasure. When you constantly say yes to others, you are quietly saying no to yourself. No to rest, no to growth, no to your own needs. And the soul does not forgive neglect easily. At first it whispers, then it nudges, then it takes. And if you still don't listen, it turns into anxiety, burnout, bitterness. People think these are psychological problems. They are not, they are spiritual signals. Your inner being is saying, I am being ignored. True selfishness is learning to pause before responding, not reacting from guilt, not answering from fear of rejection, but checking inward first. Do I have the energy for this? Do I want to do this? Does this align with who I am becoming? And sometimes the answer will be no, no without anger, no without explanation, no without apology. This kind of no is not violent, it is clean. But understand this, when you first begin saying no, the world will test you. People who benefited from your silence will resist your boundaries. They may guilt you, question you, withdraw affection, not because you are wrong, but because the rules have changed. You are no longer available for unlimited access. And that can feel terrifying because many of us were taught that love must be earned through sacrifice, that belonging requires self-neglect. So when stop overgiving, fear arises. What if they leave? What if I disappoint them? What if I'm alone? But listen carefully. If someone only stays when you abandon yourself, that is not connection. That is dependency. And dependency is not love. It is fear wearing a familiar face. When you begin honoring your limits, something strange happens. Your yes becomes powerful because now it is real. When you say yes from choice instead of obligation, people can feel it. There is presence in it, joy in it, integrity in it. A tired yes carries resentment. A conscious yes carries love. And here's the paradox. The more you respect your boundaries, the more others respect you. Not everyone will stay, but those who do will meet the real you, not the exhausted version, not the people pleaser, but the grounded human being who knows where they end and others begin. This is how inner dignity is built, not through confident speeches, not through affirmations, but through small, quiet acts of self-respect, through the courage to disappoint others rather than betray yourself. Remember this always, you are not here to be endlessly available. You are here to be alive, and life needs space. When you stop leaking energy through unconscious yeses, you suddenly have room. Room to think, room to feel, room to grow. So the next time a request comes, pause, breathe, listen inward. Your no may feel uncomfortable at first, but your soul will recognize it immediately and it will exhale. Now we go deeper, because once you stop betraying yourself with unnecessary yeses, something else becomes impossible to ignore. You begin to see the masks, not just on others, but on yourself. From a very young age, you learned a simple lesson. When you are real, you are risky. When you are agreeable, you are safe. So you adjusted. You learned which parts of you were welcome and which were not. Your anger was too much. Your sensitivity was too weak. Your curiosity was inconvenient. So you hid them. You became polite instead of honest, acceptable instead of authentic, predictable instead of alive. And the world rewarded you for it. You were praised for being easy, liked for being flexible, included for not rocking the boat. But there is a hidden cost to this strategy, and it is enormous. Every mask you wear may protect you from judgment, but it also blocks intimacy, because no one can truly meet you if you never show up. Most people don't realize this, but exhaustion is often not from doing too much, it's from pretending too long. Keeping a mask in place takes constant energy. You are always monitoring yourself, filtering your words, adjusting your reactions. Over time, you forget where the mask ends and you begin, and this is why many people feel empty. Even when surrounded by others, they are present physically, but absent spiritually. True selfishness begins the moment you decide to remove the mask, not dramatically, not aggressively, but honestly. It means allowing yourself to feel what you feel without editing it, to speak what is true without rehearsing it, to let your face reflect your heart instead of hiding it. This is terrifying at first, because when you stop performing, you risk losing approval, and approval has felt like oxygen for a very long time. But hear this clearly: approval can keep you liked. It can never make you whole. When you live behind a mask, you are constantly chasing validation, likes, praise, reassurance, and no amount of it ever satisfies, because it is feeding the mask, not you. This is why people become addicted to attention, why they refresh their phones, why they fear silence, because in silence there is no audience, and without an audience the mask has no purpose. So the work becomes internal. You start asking yourself in each moment, am I being real right now, or am I being strategic? Am I speaking from truth or from fear? And slowly, gently, you begin choosing truth more often. You don't overshare, you don't attack, you simply stop lying. And here is what happens when you do. Some people will drift away. They were never connected to you, only to the version of you that served them. Others will step closer, because authenticity is rare and it is magnetic. But the most important change happens inside. For the first time, your inner world and outer world begin to match. There is less friction, less self-betrayal, less quiet shame. You begin sleeping better, breathing deeper, feeling more grounded, not because life is easier, but because you are no longer divided. This is the hidden power of selfishness. It is not about taking more from the world. It is about giving yourself permission to exist as you are. The world may prefer your mask because masks are predictable, comfortable, non-threatening. But your soul prefers truth, even if it is messy, even if it is inconvenient. And here is the final truth of this lesson. A mask may earn you applause, but it will never know peace. Peace only visits the real. So choose reality again and again, even when your voice shakes, even when your hands tremble. Because the moment you stop pretending, life stops feeling like a performance and starts feeling like home. Because once the mask falls, you are left alone with yourself. And for many people, this is the most uncomfortable meeting of all. You have been taught to love others before yourself, to give first, to sacrifice, to endure. And on the surface, it sounds noble, spiritual, mature. But underneath it, something subtle breaks. When you don't love yourself, your love becomes desperate. It becomes bargaining. It becomes fear disguised as affection. You don't give because you are full. You give because you are hoping they won't leave, hoping they will choose you, hoping they will fill the emptiness you don't know how to face. This is why so many relationships feel heavy, why love turns into control, why care turns into jealousy. It is not because people are bad, it is because they are empty and trying to drink from each other. A thirsty person does not share water. They fight for it. And a person who does not love themselves cannot love cleanly. They love with conditions, with expectations, with hidden demands. True selfishness begins with learning to sit with yourself without distraction, without noise, without someone else's presence validating your worth. Just you, breathing, existing. At first it feels awkward, then boring, then uncomfortable. Because when you are alone, there is no mirror, no reflection in someone else's eyes, no reassurance, only you. And this is where most people run back into relationships, back into noise, back into attachment. But if you stay, if you don't escape, something profound happens. You begin to feel yourself, not as a role, not as a function, but as a living being. You notice your rhythms, your moods, your needs. You begin treating yourself with the same patience you offer others, the same forgiveness, the same care, and slowly, without force, self-love is born. Not the loud kind, not the performative kind, but the quiet kind, the kind that says, I don't abandon myself, I listen to my limits. I matter even when no one is watching. This kind of love changes everything, because now, when you love others, you don't cling, you don't demand, you don't lose yourself. You share, you give from overflow, not from hunger. You connect without dissolving. And paradoxically, love becomes lighter, freer, healthier. You stop adding people to complete you, so you can finally meet them as equals. This is why selfishness is not the enemy of love. It is the foundation of it. Only a whole person can offer wholeness. Only a rooted person can offer stability. When you love yourself, you stop asking, will they stay? And start asking, is this true for me? You stop tolerating disrespect in the name of love. Stop shrinking to keep connection alive, because you already have connection with yourself, and that connection becomes your anchor. So if you find yourself over-attaching, over-giving, over-fearing loss, don't shame yourself. Just notice the absence of self-love underneath it. Turn inward, sit longer, listen deeper, Learn to enjoy your own company without trying to improve it, fix it, distract from it. Because the greatest love affair of your life is not with another human being. It is with your own existence. And when that love is alive, every other relationship becomes a choice, not a necessity. That is freedom. Because now we arrive at something the mind resists, but the soul understands immediately. Once you begin loving yourself, once you stop leaking energy through false yeses and borrowed identities, a new responsibility appears, discipline, and most people misunderstand it completely. They think discipline is force, pressure, punishment. They imagine strict rules, harsh routines, and a life without pleasure. So they avoid it. But listen carefully. Discipline is not violence against yourself. It is devotion to yourself. A disciplined person is not someone who hates comfort. It is someone who loves their future more than their impulses. Every undisciplined act is a message. It says, I don't trust myself enough to keep promises to me. And over time, that distrust turns into self-doubt. You start questioning your ability to follow through. Your confidence weakens. Your word to yourself loses weight. This is why so many people feel powerless. Not because they lack talent, but because they lack self-trust. True selfishness is rebuilding that trust. It is waking up when you said you would, showing up when no one is watching, doing the small, boring things that align you with who you want to become. Not for applause, not for recognition, but for integrity. Discipline is saying no to what feels good now, so you can say yes to what matters later. It is choosing rest over escape, consistency over motivation, structure over chaos. And here is the truth: few admit chaos is easy, discipline is love. When you train your body, you are not punishing, you are honoring it. When you guard your mind from endless noise, you are not depriving yourself. You are protecting your peace. When you commit to a path, you are not limiting yourself, you are freeing yourself from distraction. Undisciplined people are always available to everyone, to everything. Disciplined people are selective. They know their energy is sacred. And this is where selfishness becomes holy. You stop saying, I don't have time, and start saying, this is not a priority. You stop waiting to feel inspired and start acting from commitment, because inspiration is unreliable. Discipline is faithful, and faith is built through repetition. At first, discipline feels heavy because you are breaking old agreements with comfort. But over time, something shifts. You begin to feel strong, centered, capable, not because life is easier, but because you are steadier. And here is the quiet miracle of discipline. It creates inner order. When your inner world is ordered, the outer world stops overwhelming you. Decisions become clearer, emotions become manageable. You stop feeling pulled in 1,000 directions. This is why disciplined people appear calm, not because they have fewer problems, but because they are not at war with themselves. So don't wait to feel ready. Don't wait to feel confident. Begin where you are, small, consistent, honest. Keep promises to yourself, even tiny ones, because every kept promise strengthens your spine. And one day you wake up and realize you trust yourself. That trust is power. Now slow down, because after discipline brings order, something rare becomes possible. Silence, not the absence of sound, but the absence of interference. Most people have never experienced real silence. They are alone but not silent. Their minds are crowded. Their thoughts are loud. Their attention is scattered. The moment things quiet down, they reach for something: a phone, music, conversation, noise, not because they enjoy it, but because silence feels dangerous. In silence, there is no distraction, no escape, no one else to blame or lean on, only you. And this is why silence is avoided, because in silence the truth begins to speak. At first, silence is uncomfortable. Your mind rebels. Thoughts rush in. Regrets surface. Unfinished emotions knock loudly. This is not failure. This is detox. You are hearing what has been ignored for years. Most people mistake this discomfort as a sign that something is wrong. So they run back to noise, back to stimulation, back to being busy. But if you stay, if you don't escape, something remarkable happens. The noise begins to settle. Thoughts slow down, gaps appear, and in those gaps clarity arrives. Silence is where you stop borrowing opinions. It is where you stop absorbing the moods of others. It is where you finally hear your own inner rhythm, not what you've been told to want, not what is trending, not what is expected, but what feels true. This is why silence is a form of selfishness, because it means choosing your inner world over constant engagement with the outer one. It means unplugging without guilt, stepping back without explanation, creating space without apology. And the world may not like this, because a silent person is not easily influenced, not easily rushed, not easily controlled. In silence, confusion dissolves. You stop reacting, you start responding. You begin to notice patterns. Why certain situations drain you, why certain people unsettle you, why certain empaths feel heavy. This awareness does not come from thinking harder, it comes from listening deeper. Silence teaches you restraint. You speak less but with more meaning. You act less but with more intention. You stop needing to announce yourself because you are rooted, and slowly you begin trusting your intuition again. That quiet knowing you once ignored, that subtle inner yes, that gentle inner no. Silence sharpens it. This is why ancient wisdom always valued stillness, not as escape but as alignment. When you are silent, you are not empty. You are available to insight, to direction, to presence. And something else happens too. You begin to feel connected, not to people, not to roles, but to existence itself. You feel part of something larger without needing to define it, without needing to explain it. And this connection brings peace, not excitement, not thrill, peace. The kind that doesn't depend on circumstances, the kind that doesn't collapse under pressure. This peace is not dramatic, it is steady, and from it, right action arises naturally. So don't chase silence as an achievement. Invite it as a practice. Sit without reaching, walk without headphones, breathe without commentary. Let silence do its work. Because in a world addicted to noise, the quiet mind becomes powerful, and the person who knows how to be silent is never truly lost. Now we move into territory most people avoid their entire lives, because silence shows you the path, but courage is required to walk it alone. Once you begin hearing your own inner voice, it becomes impossible to unhear it. And that's when the real test begins. You realize that what feels true to you does not always match what the crowd is doing. Your values don't always align with the majority. Your pace doesn't match the rush around you. And suddenly belonging becomes complicated. The crowd offers comfort, it offers approval, it offers safety in numbers, but it asks for something in return. Your originality, your depth, your truth. Most people accept a deal without realizing it. They follow paths they didn't choose. They repeat opinions they didn't examine. They chase goals they don't even want. not because they are weak, but because standing alone feels frightening. The crowd whispers, "Stay with us." It promises protection, but it never promises fulfillment. True selfishness is the courage to step away when something inside you says, "This isn't mine," and that voice will not shout, it will not argue, it will quietly persist. You can ignore it for years, decades even, but the cost is always the same: a vague sadness, a sense of living someone else's life, a feeling that time is passing but you are not moving. Following the crowd feels safe in the short term, but in the long term it is the most dangerous decision you can make, because the crowd does not know where it is going. It only knows how to move together. When you walk your own path, loneliness will visit, not as punishment, and as initiation. Loneliness strips away illusion. It shows you who you are without reflection, without validation, without applause. At first it hurts. You question yourself. You wonder if you're wrong, if you're missing out. But if you stay honest, if you keep listening inward, loneliness transforms. It becomes solitude. And solitude is not empty, it is rich. In solitude, you stop performing, you stop comparing, you stop rushing, you begin creating instead of consuming, thinking instead of reacting, living instead of following. This is where originality is born. This is where purpose clarifies. This is where strength is forged. The crowd avoids solitude because it demands responsibility. No one to blame, no one to copy, no one to hide behind, but responsibility is power. When you stop outsourcing your direction, you reclaim your life, and something strange happens when you do. People begin to feel your presence, not because you are louder, but because you are grounded. You don't need to convince, you don't need to compete. You simply walk, and those who are ready will notice. Those who are not will criticize. Let them. Every meaningful path in history was first walked alone. So, if you find yourself standing apart, uncertain, unapplauded, do not rush back to the noise. This is not exile, this is alignment. Trust the quiet pull of your own direction, even when it doesn't make sense yet, because the crowd may offer comfort, but only your own path can offer truth and truth. Even when lonely, is never lost. Because when you stop following the crowd, when you stand alone long enough, something inevitable rises to the surface. Pain, not dramatic pain, not sudden tragedy, but the slow, honest pain of growth. Most people are not afraid of pain itself. They are afraid of what pain might reveal. So they avoid it, they numb it, they distract from it, they stay busy, they stay entertained, they stay comfortable, and comfort becomes the cage. Pain is treated like an enemy, something to escape, something to fix immediately. But pain is not your enemy. Avoidance is. Pain is information. It is feedback from life saying something needs attention. When you avoid pain, it doesn't disappear. It sinks deeper, it hardens, it begins to shape your behavior from the shadows. This is how fear forms, how bitterness grows, how people become rigid and closed. True selfishness is allowing yourself to feel what hurts without running, to sit with discomfort long enough to understand it, to stay present when the instinct is to escape. This is not masochism, this is courage. When pain arises, most people ask, how do I get rid of this? But the better question is, what is this trying to teach me? Pain might be showing you a boundary you ignored, a truth you avoided, a path you stayed on too long. If you listen, pain clarifies. If you resist, pain multiplies. Think of pain as a messenger. If you lock the door, it keeps knocking. If you open it, it delivers the message and leaves. This is why emotional maturity is rare. It requires staying open when everything in you wants to close. It requires honesty without self-pity, strength without hardness, and slowly something extraordinary happens. You stop fearing pain because you trust yourself to face it. And that trust changes everything. You take risks, you speak truth, you walk away from what no longer serves you, not because you are fearless, but because you are no longer controlled by fear. Pain loses its power when it is met consciously. It becomes a passage instead of a prison. And here is the paradox. When you stop avoiding pain, life becomes lighter. You are not carrying unresolved weight anymore. You are not dragging the past into every moment. You feel cleaner inside. This is how resilience is built, not through toughness, but through presence. You learn that you can be hurt and still whole, disappointed and still open, challenged and still grounded, and this capacity makes you free because nothing owns you anymore. Not approval, not comfort, not fear. So the next time pain arises, don't rush to escape it. Sit with it. Listen. Ask what it wants to show you. On the other side of pain is not weakness. It is wisdom. And the person who can face pain without running cannot be lost. Now we reach the point where everything comes together. Because after pain teaches you honesty, life asks one final question. Are you willing to take responsibility? Most people say they want freedom, but what they really want is comfort without consequence. They want choices without ownership, results without effort, growth without discomfort. And that is not freedom, that is fantasy. Freedom begins the moment you stop waiting to be rescued. At some point, every adult must face a sobering truth. No one is coming to save you. Not your parents, not your partner, not society, not luck. This is not cruelty, it is clarity, because the moment you accept this, your power returns. Responsibility is not a burden placed on you, it is authority handed back to you. When you take responsibility, you stop blaming your past. You stop resenting circumstances. You stop outsourcing your life. You look at where you are and say, this is mine, not with shame, not with guilt, but with ownership. You stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start asking, what will I do with this? This shift is subtle, but it changes everything. Victimhood dissolves, energy returns, direction appears, responsibility sharpens you. You become careful with your time, intentional with your words, honest about your habits. You stop lying to yourself about what you can control and what you cannot. You cannot control the world, but you can control your response, your effort, your commitment, and that is more than enough. Selfishness here means refusing to give your power away through excuses. It means standing in front of your life and saying, I am accountable. This does not mean self-judgment. It means self-respect. When you own your mistakes, they stop owning you. When you own your choices, you reclaim your direction, and something surprising happens when you live this way. You stop complaining, not because life is perfect, but because complaining no longer serves you. You stop envying others because you are too busy building. You stop waiting for permission because you realize you don't need it. Responsibility matures you. You become someone others can rely on, not because you are self-sacrificing, but because you are solid. And from this solidity, generosity becomes possible. Here is the final truth. When you fully take responsibility for your life, you stop being a problem in the world and start being a contribution, not by trying, but by being aligned. You show up with clarity, you serve without resentment, you give without depletion, because you are no longer confused about who is responsible for your life. You are, and that realization is not heavy, it is liberating, because a person who owns their life cannot be manipulated, cannot be controlled, cannot be lost. They may stumble, they may fall, but they will rise with awareness. So stand here in ownership, in clarity, in truth. Your life is yours. And once you claim it fully, it begins to answer you. This is the path of conscious selfishness, and this is the path to freedom. There comes a moment in every conscious life when excuses stop working. They don't collapse loudly. They don't announce their departure. They simple. You lose their power. You can feel it when it happens. The old stories you used to tell yourself about your past, your parents, your circumstances, your bad luck, the timing, the system, they begin to sound thin, not false, just incomplete. And for the first time, you realize something unsettling and liberating at the same time. No one is holding you back anymore. This is the moment most people avoid their entire lives. Because responsibility is not comforting. It doesn't pat you on the back. It doesn't soothe your wounds. It stands in front of you quietly and says, this is yours, your life, your direction, your consequences. At first, the ego resists this fiercely. It looks for someone to blame, something to point at, because blame feels lighter than ownership. It allows you to stay small while feeling justified. But blame is expensive. It costs you your power. Every time you say, they did this to me, you hand your authority to someone else. Every time you say, if only things were different, you postpone your life. Responsibility does the opposite. It pulls everything back into your hands. Not just your success, but your mistakes. Not just your strengths, but your patterns. And this is where selfishness becomes mature, not loud, not rebellious, but grounded. It stops asking, why me? And starts asking, what now? This shift does not happen overnight. It happens in small, uncomfortable realizations. You notice how often you wait, not actively, but subtly, waiting for our motivation, waiting for clarity, waiting for confidence, but waiting is just fear in polite clothing. Responsibility removes waiting from the equation. It understands something simple and profound. You don't become ready and then act. You act, and readiness is built along the way. This is why so many people feel stuck. They are waiting for permission that will never arrive. Responsibility is giving yourself that permission. It is saying, even if I don't know the whole path, I will take the next honest step. And honesty here is crucial. Responsibility does not mean harsh self-judgment. It does not mean carrying guilt like a badge. It does not mean pretending you control everything. It means clarity. It means knowing exactly what is yours to carry and what is not. You stop blaming your past, but you also stop denying it. You stop resenting your wounds, but you also stop romanticizing them. You understand that what happened shaped you, but it does not define your next move unless you allow it to. This is where inner strength begins to show. A responsible person does not waste energy complaining about reality. They work with it. They ask better questions. Not why is this happening, but what does this require from me? They stop outsourcing their emotional regulation. They stop expecting others to fix what they want and face. They become adults in the deepest sense of the word, not hardened, not cold, but steady. This steadiness changes how you move through the world. You stop over-explaining, stop justifying, stop defending every decision. Because when you own your life, you don't need everyone to agree with you. Approval becomes optional. You also stop being shocked by consequences. You understand that every choice carries a cost, and instead of avoiding cost, you choose which cost you are willing to pay. This is freedom. An irresponsible life is chaotic not because it lacks options, but because it avoids commitment. It wants open doors without walking through any of them. Responsibility closes some doors deliberately. It says, "This is my direction," and in doing so, it releases enormous energy. When you are no longer scattered, you become effective. Your actions align, your words carry weight, your presence becomes trustworthy to yourself first. And this is where something subtle but powerful happens. You begin to trust yourself, not because you are perfect, but because you know you will respond honestly when life challenges you. Self-trust is not built by avoiding mistakes. It is built by facing them without collapse. A responsible person does not fall apart when things go wrong. They adjust, they learn, they refine, they don't dramatize setbacks. They metabolize them. This is why responsibility is not heavy forever. It feels heavy only at the beginning, when you are lifting the weight of your own life for the first time. But like any strength, it grows, and as it grows, something else fades away. Fear. Not all fear, but the paralyzing kind. Because fear feeds on helplessness, and responsibility removes helplessness from the equation. You may still feel afraid, but you no longer feel stuck. You know that whatever happens, you will meet it consciously. This confidence is quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't posture. It simply stands. And from this standing, generosity becomes natural. Here is the great misunderstanding. People think selfishness and service are opposites. They are not. Unconscious selfishness takes. Conscious selfishness grounds. And only a grounded person can truly serve. When you are not blaming the world, you stop resenting it. When you are not expecting others to rescue you, you stop demanding from them. Your giving becomes clean. You help because you want to, not because you need to be needed. You support without losing yourself. You contribute without depletion. Responsibility frees you from martyrdom. You stop sacrificing yourself to feel worthy. You stop proving your goodness through exhaustion. You live from choice, not obligation. And people can feel this. They feel the difference between someone who is helping from strength and someone who is helping from fear. Strength inspires. Fear drains. This is why responsible people quietly change environments. Not by force, not by preaching, but by example. They don't argue with chaos. They embody order. They don't shame irresponsibility. They demonstrate what ownership looks like. And those who are ready notice. Those who are not resist. Both reactions are fine. Responsibility does not seek validation. It understands something deeply spiritual. Your life is not a rehearsal. There is no later version where you finally start showing up. This is it. And once you accept that, urgency appears, not panic but clarity. You become careful with how you spend your days. You stop numbing yourself through endless distraction. You stop postponing what matters because you see time for what it really is, not pressure, but opportunity. Responsibility brings you into the present, not in a philosophical way, but in a practical one. You stop living in regret or anticipation. You work with what is here, and here is the final paradox. When you fully accept responsibility for your life, you stop feeling alone because you are no longer waiting for something outside yourself to complete you. You are in relationship with reality itself. You meet life directly, honestly, without intermediaries, and life responds, not always gently, not always easily, but truthfully. And that truth shapes you into someone solid, awake, and real. This is the end of being lost. Not because you have all the answers, but because you are no longer avoiding the questions. You stand where you are with what you have, as who you are, and that is enough to begin. That is responsibility, that is conscious selfishness, and that is freedom. Before you leave this moment, remember this truth. God did not create you to disappear into the crowd. He did not place breath in your lungs so you could live someone else's life. You were entrusted with a soul, not to waste, not to shrink, not to surrender to fear, but to honor. When you choose yourself with honesty, you are not walking away from God. You are walking toward what He planted in you. Faith is not waiting for life to become easy. Faith is standing up while it's still hard. Take responsibility for your days. Guard your inner truth. Walk the path that feels right even when it feels lonely. Because when you align your life with what is real inside you, grace meets you there. And remember this always. If you lose yourself to please the world, you gain nothing. But when you stand rooted in truth, discipline, and faith, life rises to meet you. Walk forward now with courage, with clarity, with God first. And do not be afraid. The path was made for you.